Okay, good morning. My name is Rick Howes. I'm the president and CEO of Reunion Gold. And today I hope to give you a bit of an update on our principal asset in the Guyana Shield, which is in Guyana, Oko West project, which is rapidly advancing to production.
Yeah, fantastic, Rick. Good to see you. We saw you back in June. A lot has happened in the second half of last year. But I guess the message from you is all is well. We're advancing on all fronts. Tell us how close we are.
Yeah, I mean, we had to set out the goal to try to have this operation or this mine into production by 2027. And really everything is moving on track with that, despite some of the activities between Venezuela and Guyana recently. Everything is moving with good momentum, and timelines are still intact for that target that we had set out.
Okay, well, while we're on that, I just want to hear your version. We're speaking to a few people, and I think a general consensus is on. But in your own words, I mean, how did you read that situation with Venezuela Guyana?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say it's a dispute that goes back quite a while, so this is not new. Certainly the recent oil discoveries offshore in Guyana have probably raised it to the top of the list of Venezuela again to echo their concerns over the arbitral award that was made way back in 1899 that awarded or basically settled the boundary issues between Guyana and Venezuela. So starting in about the 60s, Venezuela had protested the decision that was made back in 1899, but actively really stayed fairly quiet until recently. Then things flared up about 2018, and obviously again in 2023. And I think the actions in 23 probably from Maduro is he's heading into an election. He's probably looking to, maybe cast eyes away from the internal problems in the country and maybe try to create a bit of a nationalist sentiment agenda item that he can use for gleaning more support for the election. But I think the good news is, even though he's raised the issue of the potential that Venezuela would annex the region to the west in the Essequibo region, which is actually where we are located. He has met with the president of Guyana. They met in December and agreed not to take any unreasonable kind of, provoking actions, I'll call it. And so I think both parties are agreeing to essentially either negotiate or settle this in a non-conflictual way or non-conflict way. So I think the other thing is, many of the parties that have interests and stakes in this area, particularly the major offshore oil and gas discovery by Exxon, you've got U.S. interests and Chinese interests and other interests that are, not interested in seeing any sort of instability that might be created around that. So I think you've got lots of things in play here. I don't think it'll play out in any scary way, and hopefully the parties can settle it on an agreeable basis through negotiations or through court settlements.
Right. Okay. I don't think that's kind of seems to tie up nicely with the general consensus as well. Rick, let's for people new to this story, let's kind of remind them, a little bit on the numbers around the asset and what it is that you're hoping to build here.
Yeah, I mean, back in June last year, we announced our maiden resource estimate, and was 2.5 million ounces of indicated at 1.8 grams and 1.8 million ounces of inferred at 2 grams. And subsequent to that drilling, we're continuing to add ounces. Obviously, we haven't put out an updated resource estimate. We will this year once we complete the drilling on the underground deep extension portion of the deposit. So it's a growing asset in terms of scale of ounces. That's combined open pit and underground material potential. And so to get our hands wrapped around that potential and how that translates into an asset in terms of value, we've got to do the homework on the design of the underground potential, and also combine that with the open pit work that we've mostly completed already, to essentially give us a kind of a big picture view of the property potential there. We continue to explore, on the property as well. So we're kind of got a dual track strategy, move the project forward quickly because we already have sufficient resources identified to make a viable project. But secondly, to continue to add ounces through exploration on the property, just to see if we can continue to expand that.
Right.
project.
Okay. And where are you with the study phase? Because you talk about it in your deck about PEA and the last year, 2023.
We anticipate releasing the PA now in the second quarter, probably towards the end of the second quarter. So we're on track to do that, and we're just completing the drilling to inferred category down to 1 kilometer for the underground potential. We pretty much finished the open pit conversion from inferred to indicated. So be a bit more work to do there yet, but mostly it'll be indicated. And then we'll put a combined PEA out, which will show the potential of both the open pit and the underground, and obviously looking at the potential sequencing and timing of both of those and how that impacts the overall value of the project. So,
since 2021, you've had a good run of it in terms of share price appreciation, and a sense obviously to take advantage of that situation. You announced in September 26th that you're going to raise $70 million, and did that happen?
Yeah. So in September, we certainly took the opportunity to raise some money and really position ourselves to be able to execute the remaining study phases of the project and permitting phase of the project, so that we're in a position to actually make a decision without needing additional financing before construction decisions. So that $70 million has certainly done that. We have additional in the money warrants that we anticipate will come in as well to add up to $25 million before the end of this year, or basically by July of this year. So that sets us up very well, for sure. And then, if we're moving it forward to construction, obviously the work will be to figure out how to construction finance the project. So.
Right. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of an anomaly. It's a little an outlier in a way, in the sense that so with the PEA being released in second quarter, yet you're able to raise $70 million in what was a kind of like a high gold price environment, but a difficult financial market, in the sense that not a lot of companies were getting funded. Like, you've been on a good share price appreciation run over the past, I guess 2.5 years. I mean, why raise so much money so soon? And how did you get it over the line in such a difficult backdrop?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Difficult market. I think there is a bit of a differentiator in the market in terms of quality of projects, and I think also jurisdictions in terms of how that affects timelines and so on. So for us, we're very fortunate. We have a great mining jurisdiction which supports mining and has a fairly well-defined permitting and process that's kind of allows you to move quickly, in many cases in parallel activities. So we're taking advantage of that. And so given that opportunity to sort of turn from discovery to production in a very short time frame, that's why we needed to raise the money. We wanted to. The timelines are so fast that we anticipate that by early 25 we'll be in a position to make a construction decision. So with permits in hand, with feasibility study complete, et cetera. So that's happening within a year. So that's a pretty tight timeline. So in order to be able to do that, you need the funds. And so we just looked at it from the point of view of how much funds do we need to take us to that point, and let's raise that quantum of funds. And obviously we needed to raise that quantum of funds in this market. You needed a major investor to take an interest. So we were fortunate in that La Mancha came in as a major investor on that last funding and helped us to get that $70 million funding over the line in September last year.
How long was the relationship with La Mancha to kind of come in? help you kind of get quite a big chunk of cash over the line. I mean, how long have those discussions been going on? What's the relationship which allowed them to get so comfortable very quickly and at such an early stage again?
Yeah, no, that probably, La Mancha had been in dialogue with us for a while, long before that September fundraising. And so they were very familiar with the project. They had dated themselves and had done their own due diligence on the project. So they were in a position to make a decision, around the time we were trying to raise those funds. And we'd fostered those conversations along through the period, leading up to that financing. So. Right.
Okay. And just kind of looking. Well, actually, one more point of housework. Baric Gold and you have agreed to go your separate ways. And I assume all convivial. There was no strain there.
Yeah. No. That we entered that alliance agreement with Baric in 2019. As time rolled on, there wasn't, eventually there was essentially nothing left in the alliance agreement by the time 2020, end of 22 rolled around. So we decided that we would terminate, but, and there was some disagreement over that. And so there was a lawsuit filed and court cases scheduled, but ultimately, we settled out of court with Baric on the issue, and really it was at a no-cost sort of settlement. Neither party paid each other off in any way. We essentially just resolved any of the outstanding commitments in the agreement, and then we agreed to terminate the agreement, which, I think was a very amicable outcome in terms of the way it happened, and we didn't end up spending money to pay lawyers to go to court, which obviously was a much better outcome for both parties. So. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's unfortunate that timing wise, we got focused on one project really and had no interest to continue to generate new projects that might feed Baric's interest in terms of investment, and they had already rejected the Oko West project. So there really wasn't much to hold that alliance together in the longer term. So.
It's kind of interesting. Obviously, that alliance was formed a long time ago, and in a good, strong, positive market, objectives will be different from when it goes through 3 years of a bear market for a lot of gold explorers. Like that, I guess the name of the game is to stay in the game, be around to be able to benefit from when we all come out the other side. But can I just sort of try and understand so we're clear about? Did your drivers and theirs obviously changed over time? Was it a question of, well, like we've got to kind of grow the company and survive, not necessarily become the exploration arm of Baric? Was that sort of the general?
Yeah, I would say maybe a little bit different slant on it. That we definitely knew that we had to focus our attention on the Oko West project. You couldn't be spreading ourselves too thinly on many other things because of amount of money needed to take that, which was a great discovery, but take that down the road of de-risking and advancing it, was going to require small companies' attention. And given that Baric wasn't a joint venture partner in that Oko West project, it meant that Baric wasn't going to see any real project generation opportunities from us. And the ones they had seen, they liked some, they didn't like others. But, in the end, there just wasn't anything we saw over the coming years that would make sense to put in front of Baric, or we weren't even going to spend the time to do that. So anyway, I think it was just the way that played out was, and by nature of it, not conducive to having an alliance agreement on project generative type ideas. So.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. Just wanted to be kind of clear and sort of understand that. And now the other eternal question you get is obviously your neighbors next door, and really that's should you guys come together, and that's driven from a desire for scale. Do you think with the money that you've got in the bank to kind of take this through to FID, is the full force and full attention of the company on getting into production with what you got, or will you be continuing on the exploration path and trying to find more ounces, cheap ounces.
Yeah, no, definitely continuing the exploration along with advancing the project along. And if anything is discovered, and quickly rethinking and incorporating what that might mean to the overall project. So, in this day and age, I think the issue with mining companies is, if they wait, if they're too slow, if they take from discovery of an asset, of a new discovery to production 15 to 20 years to get it into production, that's a long time for investors to be waiting and hope, and I think that this is just lucky for us, a great discovery that we quickly brought from, 0 ounces to, 4 or 5 million ounces very quickly. So, and we're adding to that now. So it's really a case of, you have a project for sure of that quality and grade, and scale. So take advantage of it. If later you see the opportunity to expand it, great. You can put some additional capital in and expand. But to turn the time value of money around on an investment in 1/3 that time that would normally be seen in a mining industry, that's worth a lot of money to investors, worth a lot of money to everyone who's a shareholder in the company. So
it is, but there's a sort of change in mentality and certainly change in narrative. I think it's always been the Australian way, and get into production as quickly as possible, i.e. reduce dilution, and you can build it up. Slightly less efficient, but nevertheless, you kind of there's a lot of risk removed that way. Canadians have always been, draw to the edge of the envelope, and that's been, here around a long time. Do you feel that because of the market that we've just been through, very, not just a dip, but it's a long trough at the bottom of that dip, and it's changed the way that CEOs, the way that boards think and plan about the way they move projects through the phase. Like I say, you're going to rip through the phases quite quickly in terms of the studies, and also get into production, not doing the 15, 20-year play. Do you think that's because of the market that's changed that, or was that always the intent from you?
I would say the market's the key driver there. I mean, because if it's hard to raise money, if you're a junior explorer, developer, that's only making the issue, the option of being able to move it forward quickly, possible or not possible, right? So I think it's in the case of, probably 80% of the discoveries that are struggling to raise money to advance their projects, that's hindering the progress on them. And those who intend to build it versus those who intend to try to sell their projects to larger mining companies, that you're going to have a different strategy around how you do that. And so from our perspective, this was we weren't constrained by the ability to advance the project at all in terms of financing, which is because probably a statement of the country and the quality of the asset. But we're probably in a handful of companies that could do that today. Not many could in this market. I mean, it's just the nature of the market right now, right? So
yeah, but I guess like from my banking days, we liked near-term revenue stories. We would release the money if it was near-term revenue, because it'd be hopefully de-risked, or we could see line of sight to cash coming in. The same as now when I run a family office, we tend to shy away from exploration. Well, we do have exploration, but we tend to shy away from it because we're quite sure what's going to happen. We like this. We like the conversation where someone says, "Look, we can get to near-term cash flow here." So, in that sense, there are companies that are able to have access to that money, and mining companies who, well, the projects probably won't, don't lean towards economic recovery of whatever commodity. It's a bit harder to access that capital. So, I think that's why I sort of pleasantly surprised when I sort of was reading through and doing the research. $70 million up front. You've obviously signaled all the relevant variables to people that this thing is going to get into production.
No, I mean, whether you do or don't advance your project quickly, if your strategy is to basically add ounces as quickly as you can, and then look to sell your asset when you think, we can get a maximum kind of the valuation on the exploration success. That's a strategy, and many companies follow it. And I don't say that's a wrong strategy. It always depends on being able to raise money to fund your exploration. But you have to decide, are you going to spend the money on exploration, or are you going to spend the money on advancing the project through studies and all that stuff? And so, we decided that we should advance the project. And it doesn't mean that we aren't open to somebody's interest in the project, for sure, because we're always looking to maximize shareholder value. So it is something that gives us a negotiating position, if you want, in terms of the asset as well, because we're in a position where if we want to build it, we can. I mean, we actually have the skill sets. We already have a team that we would build this with, working with a very competent construction company called G Mining Services, who's built many projects in the tropical environment successfully. So, we're in that unique position of being able to build it, but it doesn't mean we will build it. So it could play out differently. It's just that we're on a fast track timeline too. So if there are people that are interested, they're having to move quickly too.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I like that. We know Team Mining, great building company. Just in terms of looking forward, like you've told us Q2 PEA is coming out, and you told us you're fast tracking everything and moving quickly. So what are we looking at for this year, the next 12 months? What does it look like? Yeah.
So we anticipate releasing that PEA in, say May or June of this year. We've got a number of sort of catalysts that are coming out early. I think while we're in negotiation with the government on the minerals agreement, we've been at that for about a year. We anticipate getting the minerals agreement signed, which is essentially the fiscal terms arrangement with the government and all the stability clauses and other obligations associated with the mining project advance. So that would come out, I think, first this quarter or next. We've got the resource expansion activity, which we're finishing off the deep extension drilling and updating an underground resource down to 1 kilometer. That'll come out either with the PEA or shortly before the PEA. We'll update an underground resource. And then combined with the PEA will be a combined open pit and underground economic study, which will show the full potential of what we think we have to date anyways. And they'll move quickly. The PEA is done to a level of closer to a pre-feasibility study. It's because we've been at that for over a year. It's a long PEA because we extended the timeline to allow for the underground. So that's given us the time to pin down the details of the scope of the project much tighter than you would normally do it at a PEA level. It's probably a pre-feas level study. So we'll move right to feasibility. We'll do some trade-off studies, just on the key trade-offs that we have to decide on before we start the feasibility study. But the feasibility study will start in the third quarter this year, and we anticipate completing that by the first quarters of next year. So that, in parallel with the permitting activities which are underway, environmental baseline work is just finishing off. We'll get that done this quarter, complete the environmental baseline reports. We're already in discussions with the government about the terms of reference for the EIA. So once that's finalized, we can start preparing the EIA application, which we tend to submit by the third quarter of this year. And then, it's about 6 months normally to get the permits from there. So, by end of first quarter, we would hope first quarter of 25, we hope to have both the permits in hand, the feasibility study completed, and then, of course, looking at the construction financing alternatives, evaluating those so that we're in a position to make a construction decision, I think, sometime in the second quarter of 25.
Okay. So a lot going on for sure. And just if you don't mind, just finally, in terms of, obviously it's an environment where I think inflation is dropping off mostly, and the kind of, because costs and capex have been such a big shock to most people. We've seen projects, as much as 50-70% over the previous study. Are you getting this sense that the prices are settling out there in terms of that there's no kind of cause for concern around sort of capex projects? I know you've kind of got open pit and you've got underground as well. So have you got a sort of a sense of that for this PEA now? Prices come in.
In some ways, we're fortunate to be working with G Mining because they are actively involved in current build projects. So they already have a very good handle on the the impacts that have been taking place recently on inflation of the equipment costs and so on, and labor costs. And so in our case, or even the level of work we've done with this PEA study, we're pretty good at getting the very up-to-date understanding of the pricing that we see in the region and globally in terms of the equipment market. And I wouldn't say the inflation issue has necessarily subsided too much. So we're just trying to make sure that we time the information we release and update things appropriately so that we don't miss the mark on the delivering of the project on budget and schedule. I think we're very cognizant of the track record of projects and even to the point of understanding why projects fail or projects don't deliver. I've been in the industry 40 years. I'm involved in a lot of projects. I can say we spend a lot of time on that subject of making sure we get it right with our partners. And so my confidence in our ability to deliver this thing on budget and schedule is very high. Now, getting it right at that stage of committing a number to the market, is really important. So getting it right is all about the details and making sure your scope is properly defined and getting the updated pricing numbers as close to the date that you're releasing that as you can. And all those things, paying attention to detail, not missing anything, it's all those things that can set these projects off course very quickly. So
right, I appreciate the update. Thanks very much for swinging by. Stay in touch. It's going to be a busy year for you guys, and we'll be following you very closely.
Very good, Matthew. Thanks. Nice to talk to you as well. Take care.